Hi, everybody. Today is Wednesday, January the 8th, 2020. And we have with us today Andrea, also known as Barefoot Doc. And of course, this is Rudy Psychic Meetup. So take it away, Rudy.
Hey everyone, Happy New Year and welcome Andrea, Barefoot Doc. So I just wanted to kick off and thank Andrea for joining. At the end of last year, Sam's Guides, I think, and made it pretty clear that we have such a group here, and there's plenty of people that have interesting stories that we want to interview and learn from. And so, Andrea, thanks for volunteering to be the first one of the new year. We're going to learn a little bit more about you, so I'm excited to do that. But also, I know we have a lot of healers in the group, also a lot of people with just some crazy woo-woo stories. So if there's anyone out there that has something where you'd like to come on and share with everyone, just reach out to me, let me know, and we can talk about what your topic is. I know Bart and Tom has agreed to come back on and maybe share some more ghost stories from New Mexico. Got any Bigfoot sightings? I'd like to hear those too. Maybe Robert Patrick can get a video of Bigfoot stealing his mushrooms. That'd be fun to get that on video.
Oh my goodness.
He's down in Bigfoot country. Yeah. So, but if I look back on last year, Sam, this has been quite a year. Just about a year ago that you kicked this off. And I know personally, I've been amazed in how I've grown through my gifts, just knowing that I have them and everything that's developed. And a lot of that it's been through people willing to share their experiences. So, Andrea, thanks for coming on. And we'll see what we learn from you. So let's see, Sam, I guess let me start off. In the past year since we did this, what's probably the biggest, I know you've mentioned your gifts are accelerating, but what's probably the biggest thing that you've noticed about how your gifts have changed?
Just my confidence level is way up because it's like I'm going to practice every day. And you guys, like I said, it's no word of a lie. It's like you're lobbing the balls at me. And people are apologetic. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, Sam, if I'm bugging you. And, and I appreciate that people keep it in the room so that everyone can, because, not everyone can direct message me, right? So, but what I really love about it is how much everybody is getting from it, including me. I was talking about that today, how much I've learned from, I've heard about stuff and researched things that I had no idea people were saying. I didn't know anything about it. And it's just been a whole new world for me. I mean, that's probably the biggest level up for me that I've experienced.
Yeah, I think really just paying attention to things that maybe I would have dismissed before. Like I noticed at Christmas Eve dinner, I definitely felt, my grandparents around us, when we were all sitting there having dinner. So it's things like that that I pay more attention to now that I've really enjoyed. So, all right. Well, Andrea, let's get started with you. You are known as Barefoot Doc, and you are a practicing acupuncturist. So tell us a little bit more about when did you realize you were a healer, or when did you or what made you get involved in a healing art like this?
Sure. Well, hi, Sam and Rudy. Thanks for having me on. What made me decide? Well, I actually think I came in as a healer because I remember as a child always having the talks with, the guides and stuff, and just thinking that was normal. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I realized that maybe actually that wasn't normal. So that came as a bit of a shock. But I think, even as a teenager, catching the bus home from university in the evenings, I would be looking out, I remember this very distinctly, looking out the window and just picking people who were walking by off the street, surrounding them in white light and love, sending love to them. And so it's just always been a part of me, I think. When I studied languages at uni, which is quite bizarre, really. And then after I got out of uni, I went into a couple of different places for work, and they were just really not my cup of tea at all. And so I moved to Melbourne from Adelaide. I actually studied massage, so that was a much better fit for me. And I was working in a placement agency at the same time. And then I came back to Adelaide, started my practice in Adelaide, and in the rooms that I was renting, there were several different practitioners. One of them was a chiropractor. Another one was a doctor of Chinese medicine. And I had never come across that before. Adelaide's a very conservative place. So as I was watching his patients come and go on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, I could see the improvement. So as these people were coming, and moving along in their treatment, it was very obvious to see that they were improving. So I got the ear of this guy and just went, you've got to tell me about this. What's this about? Like, how does this work? Da, da, da. So I, from that point, learnt something about it and made a promise to myself in my mind that if ever I came across a course where I could learn this skill, then I would do that. So fast forward a few years, I had my daughter. That was a C-section, and I started studying nursing not long after she was born, and realised that I was just not cut out for that very authoritarian hierarchical structure. I couldn't work in it. And I think for a lot of creative healing people, that's a very difficult structure to work in. So I went home from a placement in hospital this one particular day, having just witnessed the most atrocious treatment, particularly of elderly patients, and thinking, I do not belong here. I belong somewhere else. And flipped open the yellow pages, as it was back in those days, and went through the natural healing colleges that were available. And one of them had an ad, and the name of this guy, who I had originally learnt from years ago on an unofficial basis, he was advertised as being the head of the Chinese medicine department. So I went bing, 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 right. So I rang them and, started studying then. And that was back in the dim, dark ages in the 90s.
Wow.
So,
I'm always fascinated how people that are, in the healing arts, there's a lot of crossover with massage therapy, chiropractors. My wife notices that. And so good chances are, if you have a really good massage person that you go to all the time, they might have more abilities than they let on.
absolutely.
Very common. Yeah. Well, that's cool.
I would say that.
So acupuncture specifically, so what drew you to that? And did you study any other modalities besides like acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine?
Gosh, I've studied a lot of things, actually. The Chinese medicine drew me. Why specifically? Because I think the theory of it is so beautiful. Like, it's very, it's elegant and it's simple, and yet it's not simplistic. So you can treat just about every disease on the planet with Chinese medicine, acupuncture and herbals. So I think it was that completeness and the simplicity of it that I really was drawn to. And I think also for me personally, perhaps it was because I come from a very conservative background. It was a way to have a, health practice or a profession, but actually be able to practice those more energetic qualities as well, because people don't need to have to know about that.
Right.
They don't, you don't have to explain to them that that's part of the process.
And Sam, I think we talked, it was a couple months ago, that traditional Chinese medicine is one of those healing modalities that definitely has it right. There's something, all the energy meridians, how it flows through your body, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's complete for sure.
So what are, like, if you just had to give the elevator speech, what's the basics of how acupuncture works? I don't want to go and can I start doing stuff on myself?
Yeah, actually you can. You can do quite a lot with your own thumbs. So
Okay.
if you've got the right point, you can massage very deeply and for a period of time, and you can do, quite a bit of stuff yourself. How does it work? Okay, so I get asked this all the time, and I never feel like I give it a good explanation. However, the theory of it is that there are 14 main meridians that flow throughout the body. The thing that most people probably don't know about it is that all of those meridians connect. So we're actually a complete electrical circuit, if you like. When you insert the needles at very specific points, you can do a lot of different things. So, for example, you can get qi, which is energy, moving if it's been stuck. You can reduce the energy if it's become too big. That's hard to explain, isn't it? But if it's become too big in a particular part of the body, you can reduce it. If it's not if your chi is not strong enough in a particular organ system, you can actually add chi to it and build it. So it can do, all of those things. But I think for me, the magic, can I say that? The magic of it is that because we're a complete circuit, it's a bit like when you bring the acupuncture into it. For me, it's like hooking up to a divine petrol pump or gas pump, So you actually can bring that energy from somewhere else into the body. And that's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And saying, I think we talked about this before. Is you have those energy systems within your body, but it's also you're connecting outward. So, it's all tied together, and that's and Chinese medicine has documented it pretty well.
Yeah. Well, I do believe we all have access to this ethos I'm talking about. And that's where I can grab a lot of the information that I'm looking for. But I do believe that every person, like if you have any intuition, this is where this is coming from. And that's also that has electricity in it to it. So I can totally see that analogy. I was thinking more of when you're doing because I've had acupuncture done for injuries in the past, and it's worked very well. I find it gave me some immediate pain relief that actually sometimes would even, work for as long as 2 weeks, and which I appreciated not having to take Advil for 2 weeks because it's not great on the tummy, right?
Yeah.
I've had personal experience with that, but I've always thought of it as, the grids that when you're putting in at these points, it's like you're repairing the connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that sort of speaks to the fact that we're a complete circuit. You can repair the circuit. And I think Chinese medicine comes from the premise of working on the ineffable, quote unquote. They began at dealing with those very subtle symptoms because it was not so much in the West, but in the East, it's obvious that the gross pathological diseases come from a point where they were very subtle to start with, and the symptoms, if they're caught very early, they can prevent that railroading down into something that's a lot worse. And I think that's probably where a lot of Westerners struggle, because you can't really scientifically prove that by catching a disease in its early states, you've prevented something from getting worse. But I have to say that a lot of my patients, they'll get on the table and I'll take their pulses and say, have you got a cold? And they'll say, no. And then the next time I see them, they'll say, I came down with cold symptoms the next day. Did you put that in my mind? No, it wasn't me.
Well, Andrea, you've been pretty active in the healing group here on Discord, and that's the other topic I want to cover with you is before this group, had you done any like the leading the group prayers, the group healing, or is this the first time you've really delved into that?
It's probably the first official time. I mean, back when I was very young as a teenager, I was part of a church group for a while, and because that was a good sort of outlet for my spiritual side, I think. So I did participate in church prayer groups at that point, but it was the intention was not brought to those groups. So over my development over the last few decades, I think I've played a lot with that. And certainly I remember my first year lecture in Chinese medicine saying intention is everything. And I thought, yeah, that's, you can see that in life. And when I am meditating or praying, then the intention is very focused, and there's so much power in that. And I can't explain why. I just know that it is because I've experienced it.
Yeah, Sam, when I joined the one, I think in December, and I tell you, I've never had a connection like that. It was almost like a crown of energy coming out when we were all getting together. I think it was to pray for Ken, and I've never experienced anything like that before. And so, what I'm wondering, Sam, is are your guys showing us that we're all connecting with each other and then helping someone, or do we just all help them? A direct path to that person. What's actually happening when we're doing this?
Well, we're all connected, like we're all learning how to access the ethos. This is why these things are happening, in my view, because I thought about that as well. Because, I'm a little bit nosy when they're like, oh, and then signs and wonders will follow. I was like, you better not be trying to pull any biblical stuff on me. That doesn't fly here. I'm no religion, just everybody has ideas about stuff and they share it. Yeah. But anyways, I digress.
That's all right. Well, Andrew, you talked about, you had seen the energies from kind of all over the world converging. And then you'd mentioned your guides were giving you a little bit more information on another one. So what happens with you when you're sort of directing or leading some of these groups? What have you experienced lately when these happen?
I have definitely noticed a change and a building, perhaps. I liken it to, for those in the Discord who've got a little bit of health background, it's like the brain cell synapses, the nerve cell synapses. It's like the more you do something, the stronger that connection becomes. And I think that's part of what we might be seeing here too, because people are feeling into it, getting in touch with their intention and then focusing it and sending it out. And I think, it's like the brain synapses. The more you do that, the greater the pathways become, the easier the pathways become to access. Certainly, I think the first time that we did it, I think we were praying for Rich. There was definitely pathways. They were kind of milky in colour and they were coming from all over the globe. Oh, I'm getting tingles actually just thinking about it. They definitely came from all over the place and converged over, Canada, the Canada area. So I don't know whether we send it to source and then it comes down, or whether it's a merging of all of that together at the same time. I'm not quite sure of the mechanics.
Yeah, I think it's the merging because we are already part of source, right? And the ethos is there.
That makes sense.
So we're just all, and you're right about the muscle thing. I never thought about that. That it's like that's right. We are exercising a muscle. I did find though that the more that came here and all sort of worked together, the more things could get elevated very quickly. So it seems that there's been quite a few people who are also, healers. Plus you have everybody's got the same intention. And like I was saying before, I mean, even if you're someone, there's a lot of people who say, oh, I have nothing. Like I don't even have intuition. And I'm like, yeah, but you have intention.
Exactly.
You can access the ethos just as much as I can. And you know what? We're all equal there. So my intention is just as equal as somebody who says, oh, I'm not a medium. I'm not a healer. I'm not this, I'm not that. How can I be important? Because you have intention as equal as the rest of us.
Well, and what I was amazed at is like even Muant was saying he felt his hands heating up when we were doing that. Someone else I think had mentioned they also felt that tingling around their, kind of around their head. And so the reason we bring this up obviously is so that if you've been in one of these groups or you join one and these things start to happen to you, pay attention to that because, things are happening and it's not just you have an itch in your neck or you got the chills. There's probably a little bit more going on to that. So, but thanks, Manna, or I'm not Manna, Andrea for doing that and helping us all connect. Yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting. So I look forward to doing some more of those in the future. So no, this was great. Let me just end, Andrea, with what's kind of the biggest thing you've noticed about maybe your gifts? Have they changed since you've joined this group or in the past year or so?
Oh my goodness me, yes. So I saw that quadruple tree actually put into the general section on Discord. He asked whether I had entities come in with me when I'm working on people. I definitely do now, but I called them in. They didn't just, well, actually, no, that's not true. They've been nudging me for many years. So I remember saying to Sam in one of my readings, I have gotten very specific information over the right shoulder about points when I'm working on people. And I think that was to nudge me to start taking notice of other things. And so now I'm taking notice of other things. And last year, in a sound meditation, actually, I was given 3 hand mudras, which are just hand signals, that came to me. So I actually do those over people now after the needles are all in. And I'm so glad you guys are here because I can't say this stuff to other people. I call in Archangel Michael now as well when I'm working on people. And I was visited last year. I told Sam about this as well. I was visited last year by the masters. They just came in spontaneously when I was having an energy healing myself from somebody else. And that was the freakiest thing. But I think those guys are hanging around too when I'm working, and I certainly invite them in.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about that. My wife shares similar experiences when she's doing healings, and if she gets stuck, they'll kind of help tell her, look at that, go over there. And I think they're always around helping you. But now that you know to look for them, you'll get it a lot more, and they really can come through. So,
well, they're so important. Like I said before, everybody has like their tribe, but the people who need the spirit guides are the people who would normally be under attack from the negative entities, because what you do, all of this stuff like pain, for example, which is a really big motivator for acupuncture, that'll really lower your vibrations. If you're walking around with pain. So, I mean, you're doing something, you're fixing their grid, right? And then those hand motions, and you're probably fairly close to the person, are you not, when you're doing those hand motions? Yeah. So that's your energy coming there through to them, right? Like, this stuff, but I'm sure everybody else is wondering, what's that about, right? It's just like, because sometimes they get me to do stuff like that too. And I'm just like, yeah, I feel really dumb, but I know it's true. That's the way it is. It's like, I know it's really true. I mean, there is some stuff that's not true. It's just made up. And a lot of people are not going to like me. But, I just got to say what I say, right? I can't, pick and choose. And I really feel it's so important that, everybody communicate with me the stuff that they know about and that they're wondering about, because, if you know about it or you wonder about it, I want to know about it too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting you mentioned the Archangel Michael, because I think White Wing had mentioned that in one of the other chats about him coming in and kind of feeling heat around is one of the symbol or the ways that you can know that Archangel Michael is there helping out. So I don't know if you ever experienced the warmth or not. But
oh man, I experienced so many things. Like, I'll put the needles in and do my little thing, and I'll just sit back, and I know there's a whole heap going on there, and I just watch.
Yeah. That's so wonderful. You're helping people so much, and I've learned so much tonight. How could you ever think that this might be boring? I can't even imagine.
Yes, this was great. Thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us. This was really interesting. So, and there'll be some other people I'll be tapping on the shoulder next to come join us. But again, thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome. Thank you, guys.
Let's see. Would you like me to read them, or?
Yeah, we could do that.
Sure. All right. Hi, guys. Awesome having you join the session, Barefoot Doc. Sam, does having negative thoughts and feelings and frustrations and despair sometimes stop the things that I desire from coming to me? I follow Abraham Hicks for the law of attraction to keep my vibrations high, but it's tough as a human to stay there. I also find myself getting irritated by people who whine constantly about how life is being unkind to them. Poor me syndrome. Not very compassionate of me, I know. Any tricks you have for keeping your vibrations high? Thanks heaps, Lucy.
Oh, that's a great question, Lucy, because you know what? The problem with, the world today is that there's all these other people out there. That's such a big, I mean, when you think about it, because if you're around like all these other people, there's going to be, if you're thinking about at least 1% are like psychopathic, like that's statistically, and I can verify that because I probably hired about 200 people come and gone just because people would stay maybe 4 or 5 years. I had people who would stay over 20 years, but it's the normal cycle. And if you're doing something for over 30 years, that's not a high number. But I did get 2 people who were psychopaths. So, when you think about like the numbers of people, you're going to get a little bit of everything. Can you reread the question to me again? I just want us to get some more pictures.
Oh, yeah. She was saying, hi, guys. Let's see. Do negative thoughts and feelings of frustration and despair sometimes stop the things that I desire from coming to me? I follow Abraham Hicks for law of attraction, but it's tough to stay in that high vibrational state, basically. I find myself getting irritated by people who have that poor me syndrome and constantly whine about life. So how to, and I find pick who you engage with and when to engage. You don't have to engage with everyone. You don't have to pick up a phone that's ringing or answer a door when somebody's knocking.
And I do think that sometimes we make a lot of trouble for ourselves when we associate too much with people who end up making problems, or we try to rescue people when really we should just mind our own business. I was getting you to read that because I was trying to get a read on Lucy when you were reading the question. And what I was getting more so is to just let her know that it's okay to feel that way, because I think that she feels bad that she feels that way, you know, and she feels that this is why sometimes she's not getting things that she wants because, oh, well, I must be, you know, lowering my vibrations and me causing this. And the answer to that is no, it's fine. It happens to everybody. It happens to me as well. It's just completely normal. Don't worry about it. It has nothing to do with the law of attraction. And I think that the law of attraction really is just about making good choices. And I think if you take care of yourself and you have a positive attitude as much as you can, I think you're going to make better choices. I think we make bad choices when we're in like bad moods or have gotten ourselves into a situation that we really don't feel that there's any good options, when really if you hadn't gotten, if you had paid attention to the signs or the red flags when they first happened, and we've all done this. It's, I know I'm getting too deep there, guys, but I think
we're all human. We all get down.
Yeah.
I was bummed. I keep looking at my portfolio, and finally, as of January 3rd, it's going up in my Blockfolio app. And we all get down, and it's just part of being human. So don't feel bad about it, right? Embrace it.
Exactly. And also, it is good to try to get yourself out of that rut, to be mindful of it, and then actually, take action. Where like what I do is I make sure that I listen to upbeat music, or I'll just like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to listen to some good like running music, and I'm just going to, go for a little run, and the dog's running and his ears are flying and he's all happy. And then, you lift your mood. There's things that you can do.
Yep. Agreed. All right. Lucy writes, since there's not many questions yet, thought I'd ask another one. All the information on the Australian brush fires is confusing me. I understand land mismanagement, but what is actually causing the drought? Is there climate change happening, but it's being described incorrectly? If so, what's the cause, please?
Well, it's Australia ebbs and flows in its weather systems, as every other part of the world does. I do believe somebody had sent me a video, and it was this man talking about how he's like it's astronomy, and it's how everything sort of lines up, and that affects the weather patterns, and they go back like hundreds of years. And this is why, watching like the polar shift, it's going to take so long to happen. But Australia's had droughts for hundreds of years, where it'll be fine for 30 years and then there's a drought for 10 years. And this is not an unusual thing. What's changed is that the water is not being managed correctly. So that's how Australia survived before, is they just managed their water correctly. And there was a YouTube video, and it was so crazy how it showed up in my feed. And I looked at it, and it was an older one too. And I just really felt drawn to watch it. And I watched it from start to finish. I was fascinated by it. And that's why, and you guys know I don't post a lot of stuff in the Discord room because most of you have that stuff covered. I see it and I'm just like, okay, that's great. We're getting lots of information here. But I saw that and I was like, if all the places in Australia, if they did that, and that's almost like returning the land to what it was 100 years ago, and stop selling areas for companies to set up private dams and redirecting the water. And there's just so many things that have been done in the last 30 years that were never done before. And this is why it's so bad. So drought is not something that needed to be so devastating for Australia, but the people have caused it because of these reasons, unknowingly, except for the ones who are corrupt lining their pockets. But I honestly think that a lot of them would not have done it if they had known that it's just going to burn their country down eventually.
Yeah, I think I know the video you're talking about. I came across it a few months ago, and it was amazing with it. And you can see his valley versus the one right next to it, the difference in how they manage the water. So
yeah, because people will always light fires, but everything's so tinder dry, crazy. I'm just turning my phone off so there's no bleeping. That when somebody does light a fire, I mean, we have people who light fires here too. There's crazy people everywhere. They're angry, they're upset, or they're just nuts, so they light fires. But the thing is that, the forest doesn't burn down lickety split. I mean, the firemen have enough time to get there and deal with it and contain it. But, when there's a drought, this is the problem.
All right. Next question from Alex Sheehan. Hello, I came upon incomplete technical drawings from 1991 describing devices that can provide lighting, heating, healing, water filtration, electricity, and transportation based on the use of magnetic fields, minerals, and Earth's ionosphere, all pollution free. It was said that principles described there could be used to open the magnetic lock or transform trash into usable energy, for example. Can or will these trash recycling devices become reality in my lifetime, or is it all a distraction?
He wants to know, is it real or is it all a distraction?
Yeah, or all these are these technical drawings that maybe he's seen about these devices that can do all these things true? Because I know I've seen some examples where using ion, on the edge of a plane, you can make something almost levitate. So I think it's some of these newer technical devices that'll help with travel and flight, those types of things.
Oh, okay. And how are people coming across these drawings? Are they patented?
He doesn't say how he came across them from 1991, so it's possible on the internet. He said the drawings were from 1991 that described these devices that can provide.
I think that somebody is telling a story and they created this to back up their story.
Okay.
But it's made up stuff.
Okay.
Or what they did is they're like, oh, I'm going to make up this story, but I have to have something to, prove it. So they created or fabricated these drawings with this, and they did a pretty good job, but I mean, it doesn't work.
Okay.
Total lies.
Yeah, that's good. You've
story
got the evidence, right?
Yeah, this is the story I'm being told.
Next question comes from Dale. Hi, Sam. You mentioned in the past that you would be a good trainer, good at training horses because you can communicate with them. Can you elaborate more on that? I speak to my dogs and believe that they understand me. I also get a sense they pick up my thoughts when I am not speaking, especially when thinking about them on a walk. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Dogs are very high functioning as far as reading our body language. And we are 80% body language. So you change your stride, your breath when you're thinking about your dogs, and they notice that because you probably have a more relaxed body language when you're walking them, and they would pick that up and they would know. They would sort of have that knowing as far as that goes. But that's different from what I was talking about because, it's easy for me to talk to dead animals who've passed over on the other side. If I get a connection with them, then we can have a really good, and it's a mind chat. So if I can do that with them, I figured that I could do it with horses as well who are living because they're not speaking to you. And I find that I can read enough people's minds when I'm just around them. Even Baggy noticed that too because we were in a waiting room together and we both commented on I commented to her about a girl there because I had information. And then she goes, I was thinking that too, the exact thing. And she goes, and then she was describing like minute details about her that you would have only noticed if you had been sort of like, just sometimes people just have so much information coming at you. You can't, you try not to be nosy, but just sometimes you're like, oh.
Well, would you can be able to communicate? I guess it would be different, like you communicating with your dog Tank as opposed to a horse. Would it be different or would it be similar, you think?
It would be different
Okay.
because with Tank, I mean, I don't mean to put animals in different levels, but from what I can understand, horses do operate at a higher level. I don't know if someone could confirm that maybe a horse has a larger brain than a dog or is able to understand more than a dog is, because again, animals all have different levels of intellect. Like reptiles, a lot of them do not have the ability to have, they're not as functioning as, for example, a dog is. But that
Yeah.
all has to do with their brain and that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. So it's the
Well,
same with horses.
if anyone has a horse, bring it to the next meetup and we'll see. All right. Thanks, Sam. The next question is from Jacko. Hi, Sam. Working as a nurse in the ICU, I had a patient who became closer and closer to death while she was sick. She started off as a sweet old lady. As she became sicker, she became very lethargic as expected. The next stage I had a question about. First, she had a stage where she turned very angry and mean with cussing. That was far out of character. The next stage, she became sweet again and was very happy to see so many people visiting. No one was there visiting officially, but she told me about all her sisters-in-law who she had missed so much and she hadn't seen since she died 20 plus years earlier. She did not act like it was strange at all that people who had passed over were visiting. We figured out her issues physically and turned her around for a healthy recovery. After this, she remembered none of those stages or conversations. Is this normal for that stage of passing? I was the angry stage, just her body feeling. I was in my 20s, and this event really changed how I thought about life. Thanks, Sam.
Oh, so she wants to know about, okay, is this normal? And she wants to know about that angry stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because most people won't go through that unless they were somebody, um, who had a bad life, I guess.
Hmm.
Angry people.
Yeah, I know before when my grandfather, before he passed and the months before, my mom told me he would see like his brother, oh, Ben, is that you? He would kind of look
Yeah.
up. And I think that as the veil thins, we've mentioned that before, where you will start to get people that come over and are ready to take you. But if you turned her health around, it sounds like then, she recovered. So,
Yeah, and I would say that she was definitely very close to the edge, especially where she went through that stage where she was angry and cussing and stuff like that.
yeah.
And fighting it. And like I said, she probably found that part disturbing. But my mom worked in a nursing home for a long time before she retired, and she said you could always tell, the people who had lived a good life, they weren't afraid to die, and the people who, hadn't lived a good life and hadn't treated people nice, they were in a lot of pain and angry, and they didn't go easily into the night when they were dying. So I always say it's not how you start, it's how you finish that makes the difference. And I hope that people have been able to make changes in their life that just make everything so much better for them, so that they can cross the finish line with their head a little bit higher. I know I feel that way.
Yeah. And thanks, Cat Lady AZ. She said her aunt had the same thing where she'd see loved ones who'd passed over and talk to them.
Yeah.
All right. Next question from Sean. Hey, Rudy and Sam. I know we are ultimately light beings, but I'm interested to know if we hear, see, feel, eat, and have familiar human feelings, etc. This fascinates me, and I'd love to know, have you got any insights on this? Thank you so much. He must mean when we're in our light state, do we have some of these similar things?
Well, because I am so nosy when I'm crossing over to the other side, gleaning information, I do believe that it's true that there is no male or female on the other side. That is a human trait. You can eat food and you enjoy it. So if you like cheesecake, you can have whatever you like because you can create things with your mind. And that's why I mentioned before that sometimes some of the beautiful things that we see when we see over on the other side, there are things that have been created that remind us of beautiful things here on earth, because this is where people are learning their lessons and trying to become better light beings. And it's very difficult to become a better light being when everything is perfect. You want to go here or there, you can go here or there. You just think about it and you're there. Here you got to figure it out. You got to take time off of work. Are you going to fly in the plane? Are you going to drive in the car? I mean, everything is so much, and then you're like on that plane, you're like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom, or, oh, rats, they don't have anything that left in the cart that I like to eat. You got to worry about these things when you're here on the planet. And then you got to try not to get crabby and bite somebody's head off when they're taking up more than their share of the seat as well. So, lots of challenges here on Earth that, we all go through. I know it sounds mundane, but it's the way it is. And, it's not stupid at all to, to want to know what's it like on the other side. What are the things that we're going to get to keep? And I think it sounds pretty good to me that I can create cheesecake with my mind, and you can, enjoy a glass of wine without getting drunk.
Yeah. All those things that you thought would be great when you were a kid that, when I'm an adult, I can do this. Same kind of thing when we pass over. Oh, I can do this now. It seems great now, but maybe it's not such a big deal when you cross over, right?
Well, like I plan on recreating and being a figure, like a skating arena. And I want to do more than just a single sound cow, because I was in figure skating for 6 years and I never advanced further than just the single one. And I thought, you know what, when I cross over, I'm going to do some figure skating. Other people, you'll be on a toboggan. You can do stuff like that, right? You can do whatever you want. Other people are off, learning more stuff, hanging out with their friends. It's a pretty cool place to be. It's, and like I said, everybody has different jobs to do as well, but it's not the same as here. It's, it's not work. Nothing's work over there.
Cool. I can ride a motorcycle without breaking my leg this time when that happens. So, all right. Next question is from Empress and the Star Creature. Hi, Sam and Rudy. Recently, I confided in someone about having a baby who reminded me not to put any desire above God, source, and creator. Sure, my husband and I desire to have a baby, but it doesn't mean that we love God less. In any case, we all have desires. So from your previous Bible study, Sam, can you please shed light on the true meaning of the verse from John 2:15? Thank you. And that verse is, do not love the world or anything in the world. If anything loves the world, love for the Father is not in them.
Right. I know that one. So when somebody tells you, maybe that you're wanting a baby too badly and that, maybe you're putting that before God, that can never be true, right? That's not true. Just like before with Lucy's question, telling her, don't worry about it. You're human. So that's where I find religion with its big stick, and a person wants to beat you with that big stick. Don't let anyone tell you that wanting a baby is because, that's important. The thing is, I tell people, try not to obsess too much about something that you really want, because, you have to try to enjoy every day. And I think that, when it comes down to it, that Bible verse is not talking about a couple really wanting a baby. That's a natural thing to want somebody more in your family. I went through a lot of trouble to have my son, and I felt that completed my family. So I completely get it. And don't ever let anyone, hit you with that stick and make you feel bad for that. What they're talking about, though, it would be like someone like me, for example, where I have a gift and I could really get off track, if I kind of turned to the world and did this as entertainment, and I'm not saying that 10 years from now, when I've done what I'm supposed to do, because it's more important. I'm not saying that I'm not going to go to Vegas, and do one of those shows every night and hang out there for a year or two. I don't know. It sounds like fun to me, but it's important to do what it is that you're supposed to do for humanity and for each other. And I think that you can want a baby really bad and you can still treat other people really nice and, be considerate and thoughtful. And that's really what it's about, is doing that.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Sam. All right, next question from Lucy. I've had many dreams over the years where I get time like this will happen in a month, or I get an actual date, but when the time comes, it doesn't actually happen. Is this my subconscious wishful thinking, or is it a message from spirit but doesn't come to pass because time is too difficult to predict? Thanks.
Well, the time and the prediction coming to pass can be two different things. Like I had honed in on the BC earthquakes with people. And I don't know, do you remember when I first mentioned them? Because those were questions that people asked a lot. That was way back when, even when Mickey was doing the psyche.
Like the summer, yeah, you mentioned the Wanda Fuca. That was probably the middle of the year.
And then somebody mentioned there was another one that's right off the coast of BC. And I was like, you know what? I think both of those are going to go. That's what I told them. I said, it's going to be pretty big, but yeah, you get the prediction, and then you kind of get a timeline. The only times that I've gotten the exact dates where it's been right was April the 1st, May 11th, August 10th, and now January 3rd. Right. So that's like 4 dates. And I'm a working medium because the channel's I started doing readings in February. So I've only had 4 exact dates, and there's only one lady, and actually there's only one lady that's where I've ever had like the writing in the sparkly letters. That's,
Yeah.
So, you can get all kinds of crazy things going on.
Well, I get weird stuff in dreams, but I never take them as predictions or things that are going to happen. I've never had anything come true from a dream. But if you do, it's one of those things to start to log, like you do with your gift. Start to study it and understand how it works, and maybe you can see some patterns there. So
yeah, and don't panic if the date passes and it hasn't happened yet, but then it happens later on. But if it's like if it doesn't happen and the date, well, you know what I mean, then it's just your subconscious. It's just a dream.
Yeah. All right. Next question is from Crypto Mist. Hello, Sam and Rudy. I'm not sure if you've had this question before. I'm interested to find out what you feel about the Thrive movie with Foster Gamble, who talks about free energy and the Taurus. I know you recently talked about silver being required in propulsion and some new technology. This new technique of power is coming, and is this something to do with it? Thanks so much for all you do.
I haven't heard about this. Thrive.
It was a video clip a couple of years ago, I want to say. Foster Gamble from the Procter & Gamble family spent their own money, millions of dollars, to create this thing. And it talked about the Taurus. It's kind of like this energy donut that folds in on itself, and how there's so much potential energy and things that can be leveraged from that. And it tied in with some of the crop circles and things like that. And, it's funny, Cliff High had mentioned it being, he noticed all these what is it, the masonry symbology and stuff in there. He didn't believe it. So I don't know. I haven't watched it in a while, but it was around that, the energy Taurus, and how there's a lot of stuff that can be unlocked from this free energy.
I did see that as being one of, I didn't know if it was that story in particular or that thing in particular, but I did see there being a discovery with energy, and it has to do with the atom.
Okay.
Right. And it continuously triggering it. So it continuously creates energy. And you said a dome that gives off, and I'm like, well, that pretty much sounds like it. But there is something that's coming, and it's going to be, is this an American person?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it is going to come from America, because America is going to be very wealthy. Okay. And that's going to be one of the things that is going to make America quite wealthy.
The next question comes from Rosanna Bates. Hi, Samantha. I've had a couple of sessions with you, but never asked if there's any message from loved ones who have passed away. My dad, my brother, or my kid's dad. Thank you both for all you do.
Well, a lot of the information that I get during the readings are from these family members. It's just that I find that they don't put the energy into telling me who they are. Sometimes it leaks out, or it's very important. Like in the case, one lady booked a reading with me, and a friend of hers died mysteriously between the time she booked the reading and the time she spoke to me. So that person like literally showed themselves to me. And I even got the first letter of like, they were able to put the energy in to show me the first letter of their name, their first name, and some details about their personality. So they knew. And then I was able to tell them, that they had died of natural causes. So that's when I specifically know, because usually there's a purpose to it. But think about it. I mean, if you just have a 30-minute reading with somebody or just an hour, they don't want to put as much time into, hey, it's dad, how's it going? Right. When really they see all this stuff that's coming and they want to get as much out that's going to help you. And if they spend time blabbing about themselves and how they're doing and stuff and describing who they are, because it does take me a few minutes sometimes. Sometimes I'll get it in like 10 seconds, but sometimes I have to ask a series of questions to try to figure out, who the person is.
Yeah, most of us probably aren't in need of so we have many, deep emotional issues that's really we need to hear from that person, resolve it on the other side. Where some people do, and that'll come through if it's needed. But I've never had any of my family come through like that in any readings I've had.
Yeah, and when you think about it, doesn't that make more sense that instead of spending 5 or 10 minutes with the medium to convey, like if you were on the other side and you're talking to your adult child and you see like all this stuff that's coming and you're like, okay, he's booked 30 minutes. I got to get as much of this stuff in as possible. Don't date that girl. That car is going to be a lemon. You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to put your energy into? So I know it's a bummer when when it doesn't always like come right forward who it is, but that's literally who I'm getting my information from. It's from your tribe.
And then Sweet Home Chicago also asked, when I send Reiki to someone far away, I can feel it moving towards my intended person. But now I wonder if some of this energy falls along the way to those who need it. Is this possible? Any thoughts?
No, it's a direct track.
That's that intentions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anthony writes, hey all, my father recently passed and wondering if he has crossed over and how he is going. Love your work. Thanks.
So somebody's father just recently crossed over.
So Anthony's, recently passed away.
Did he like to be out in the garden? Because I saw him standing there with the pitchfork poking like I think it's a garden. So that would be cool.
Oh, that's neat. Anthony, you'll have to let us know if on the Discord.
Yeah.
All right. May writes, hi, Sam and Rudy. Do you think people's lives could have changed in wars, especially World War II, by using laws of attraction? Thank you.
I think that lives could have been changed through intention.
May also writes, Sam, I've read that on the other side, heaven, the colors are much more brilliant and some are different than on earth. And there are chorus music and angelic singing. Have you seen the colors or heard the music?
Yes, I've seen the colors. I've heard the music, and there is that element to it of peace. Still, it's like it's never the music's never too loud. The smell is always nice. It's just, and it's weird because it's like you don't have the sensation of breathing. That's and you feel so light. That's probably the toughest thing to get used to, is what I've been told. Because like I said, I glean information whatever I can get. And then I blab.
Crypto Floridian said, I know she's heard the music as well. So I wonder how many people in this group have heard those angelic choirs. That would be something to hear. I have not. So, very cool.
Oh, I'm sure she's heard it differently from me. They're just telling me that she's heard it more firsthand. Mine's just when I'm doing my work.
Oh.
Right. Whereas I think they actually opened this. It was almost like they opened the sky for her.
She got a special
Floridian. She's special. I'm just
right.
a delivery person who happens to. She's showing up. They're going, oh. I'm just like, yeah, I get another telegram.
You're just to help.
Jones, Karina Jones, please. No, 1945. No, you're not. No, not you're tomorrow. Tomorrow. Mañana.
Cryptoponymous writes, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. My mom lived her last few years in a care residence with dementia. She once told me to look out for an old man who was standing behind me. I glanced but saw nobody there. I asked what he was doing, and she said he was just standing there looking at me. I assumed it was someone who'd passed, but never knew my mom to see such things. Do you have any idea how common this is? Thanks."
No, I couldn't say for sure, but I think that just like when really small kids see ghosts, it's the same as when somebody who is near the end of their life and they're quite elderly can start to see ghosts again. And I tell people that, just because your child sees ghosts when they're 2 or 3, that doesn't mean that they're a medium, right? It's not uncommon for small children to see because their veil is so thin, it's not come down completely yet, and it's very thin, right?
Okay.
And then at the other side, the thinning and the lifting of the veil happens as well. So I don't know if that answers his question or not. I hope it does.
Okay. So it might not have been just dementia causing her to see things.
Right.
All right. Oh, May snuck one more in. Do you create food on the other side? Do you create food with thought or real food? Do you create food with thought or real food on the other side?
With thought.
With thought.
Right. Because remember, we're all made of electricity, so we're self-sustaining. So you're only eating food for the sensation of it, the
Okay.
memories, it's something that you enjoy. And it's all about enjoyment and peace and friendship and all the things that are good. Because, like I said, you don't have any challenges on the other side, so it's really hard to know, number one, what you're made of, and number two, have that higher learning, become like a more enlightened being, because people all work on different planes or levels on the other side, and everybody wants to be the best that they can be and continue to advance and learn.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sam, we're at an hour and a half. That does it for the questions. Thanks for your time.
Anyways, guys, everybody have a good night, and I hope to see you soon.